Hi, this is John with the Evolving World. Today I'm doing a video on chassis reinforcement on a Fiat 500e. And these are some bars that I bought. These are vertical structural. Actually, let me read off the website and you can kind of extrapolate what you want from it. Chassis reinforcement done the right way equals increased control and safety. Road Race Motorsports is proud to introduce the new Abarth Road Race Corsa chassis bracing for the Abarth. These chassis bars directly replace the cheap stamped factory braces and add superior chassis stiffening over stock. These bars create much more predictable ride handling characteristics over stock, which ensures a higher safety margin and improved vehicle control, etc., etc. So there's actually a video on YouTube where they show the difference between these and the factory bars. And the bars are factory. I mean, they are cheap stamped steel and they bend like ridiculously easily. And these things, the guy was hammering on it like a crazy person with a big old hammer, and he couldn't bend these things at all. He whacked the factory ones, like the first hit, it like whacked, it bent the whole thing over. Hit it again, it bent it over even more. It was pretty much broken at that point. And then he took these guys out. He kept whacking it with the same hammer, and it was like he was moving the whole table, hitting it, trying to get it to bend. And then these things, it just doesn't bend. So these things are super cool. I mean, this company does stuff for rally racing and such. So that's kind of what it's. I think that's kind of the whole purpose for, is to do something that's better than stock. So. Interesting sales pitch. So let's go ahead and put these in the car and see what happens. Okay, all you're going to need is a 15mm socket and a ratchet and then a torque wrench. That's all you're going to need. You don't need to jack up the car or anything. It's actually very, very simple. To do the right side, to get access, all you have to do is turn the steering wheel all the way to the right. And there is the old stamped piece of steel right here. You can kind of see it's done for cost reasons. You know, this is not an expensive car, so they just did something that was adequate. But I think our new bars are going to be much more rigid. So yeah, this is going to go in basically like this. It's certainly going to look nicer. So like this one matches this side perfectly. That's how you know that's the one that's going to go on that side. They don't give you any instructions how to put it on. It's like you have to figure it out. But it makes sense when you do it. So the old one, 8 ounces. The new one, 19 ounces. So it does add weight. But I don't think this is going to matter very much as far as weight for what you're going to get out of it. I mean, if you're going to put weight on a car, this is one place to do it. Before I put it back on, I want to note something that I found on my car. The lower one down there was actually loose. These are actually 15mm bolts. I didn't have to put any pressure on it at all. It just came right out. So thought that was kind of odd. The top one was in good and tight, but yeah, that bottom one was it's just on there. So here it is. Right side's done. Looking pretty nice. If looks all that mattered, I would say that's well worth the money. But we'll see how they actually perform. That's what matters most. Okay, so now we're on the left side here. Turn the steering wheel all the way to the left. And now we have access to this side. So this one's, if you notice that the right side, the bar is tilting, boomeranging towards the front. And on this side, it boomerangs backwards, so for whatever reason. But it's pretty easy when you take these bars in here. You can kind of see which one lines up. It's really not that difficult. Okay, with this side off, it's a little bit different than the other one. As you can see, it has quite a curvature to it, but the mounting points are perfectly aligned where it matters. See, if I overlay this one on here, that's about how it is. That's interesting. This one right here, 6 ounces. is all that weighs. I mean, this is some flimsy. I mean, I could bend this with one hand. I mean, this thing's ridiculous. It's like just for show or something. It's ridiculous. Could almost make it out of cardboard. It'd probably be firmer. Anyway, yeah. So 6 ounces and 8 ounces for that one. This one's about the same, about 19 ounces, maybe 18 and a half. So as with the other side, I prepared this. I kind of make sure you clean that off so you have a nice mating surface right there, top and bottom there. So when I took the bolts off on this, on the left side here, this time they were kind of in the middle. They were consistent, but they weren't. Like on the right side, the upper one was really tight, and the lower one was basically just hand tightened. Where on this side, they were a little bit more like lightly torqued on each. I mean, maybe like 10 pounds of torque or something is all. Okay, so here's the left side. Looking absolutely gorgeous. Now, so far, I'm very impressed with the quality of the product. The alignment is perfect. I mean, they fit absolutely perfect and everything. It would be nice to know what the torque of these bolts are. I do not know. They do not indicate what they are. So that's the only disappointment I have. It would be nice if they had instructions on that. But based off the ones that came off, it can't be very much. It's probably just about 20 pounds, 25, something like that. But I'm going to do some research on it, find out exactly what it is before this video goes live. Now that they're installed, I'm going to drive the car for the next 2 weeks and report on what are my impressions of it. So first of all, I found out that the torque is about 30 to 35 foot-pounds. At least that's as much information as I could find out about it. So that's kind of a moderate torque. It's not too much. It's not too tense either, though. So as far as the actual bars, I've been driving a car for about 1,000, maybe 1,100 miles or so. So I've driven on different roads and everything, and I can kind of feel all the differences and everything. So the first thing I noticed from the time that I drove the car initially is that when you hit like a pothole on a freeway or something, you know, before it used to make kind of a clank sound, and it kind of you just feel it kind of like, you know, shaking the car just a little bit. Now, you know, nothing crazy. But when you put the new bars on, I noticed that it's just a little bit different. Like, it doesn't seem to shake as much, and it definitely makes a different sound. Like, it makes it like a hard thunk. It's more like a solid thunk when it hits. So it just feels like there's no flex in the chassis, which is good because you want that. You want the suspension to absorb that, not the chassis. So it feels like it makes a difference. And then also when I'm on a freeway on-ramp and I'm cornering really hard, you know, like maybe a 25 mile an hour, you know, on-ramp, like a cloverleaf, you know, getting on a freeway, it's like, I noticed that when you corner doing that, like, it feels like you could go faster because it's just firmer. Just everything's tighter. Like, it just feels like you could take it at 40 instead of 35 or even 45. You know, you can really push it. It feels like it just grips better. I don't know. That might be psychological. I don't really know about that, but it certainly felt like that was the case. What I really noticed is mostly on these twisty roads where there's more potholes and stuff like that, it just feels firmer. You know, like it just, I mean, it is chassis reinforcement. It's not suspension mod, so it doesn't really make the suspension any firmer, but it does make the chassis more rigid. So you don't, so under any like real twisty turns, like something like maybe like right here, maybe we can pick up the speed here a little bit, and it just feels like when you kind of go into these corners, it just feels tighter. Definitely feels more secure. So I would say, you know, for $200, I think it's a nice mod, you know, especially if you're kind of into performance driving, or if you just want to make a nice little improvement to the car, I mean, especially if you love the car, if you know you really, you know, like the car, you think it's going to be a car that you're going to keep. Like, I feel that's how I feel about this car, to me. So it just seems like a keeper. So to put that kind of reinforcing in for $200 to me is like, you know, it's easy. I mean, it's like, it's an easy decision. I mean, I probably saved at least a couple thousand on when I bought the car, because I mean, they were typically going one for a couple thousand more than what I paid. So I feel like I got at least a couple thousand extra money to play around with. So that's why some of the mods I've done, I feel like I could easily spend, you know, a budget of 2,000, and I would be basically be no worse off than what I started with. So it's like, you know, so for $200, that would be about 10% of that, you know. So it's like, I feel like that's solid. So I don't have a problem with that at all. I think it was a good investment, no problem. They also make a horizontal bar that also costs $200, and that's also goes across the lower part of the right across the front of the lowest part of the car there. I'm not sure if it would have as much benefit, because to me it seems like the vertical bars seem like they're more the chassis flex would be, because that's where the suspension's working, and when you're putting all that pressure on the side of the car, like when you're turning the wheel back and forth, you're shifting all the weight around. It seemed to me like that would be more effective. But I might do that mod as well. I'm not sure about that. That's also another $199 or 200 plus tax, or 200 plus shipping, so like $220. They also make it in the same color too, so bright red, so it would kind of go with it, would match the other two. But yeah, I'm not sure about that. But as far as these bars go, I think it's well worth the money. There are probably, you know, other ways to spend money as well, but I mean, it's certainly nothing. You know, you're not gonna get any. There's no negatives to it, that's for sure. I mean, adding a pound and a half or whatever it is nothing when you consider all the weight that I've shaved off this car. So it's really nothing at all. So yeah, I hope you found this video to be useful. Please like and subscribe. Many more videos to come. Thanks again for watching.